In this video, we'll be covering how to use a generic DC power supply. These are really helpful in generating a variety of voltages to test out and power up your circuit. Let's go ahead and turn it on. After turning it on, you should see on the displays the voltage and current each output is providing. The leftmost two displays show the amperage and voltage that the red, black, and green terminals on the left provide, and the rightmost two displays show the amperage and voltage that the red, black, and green terminals on the right provide. Typical power supplies will have three terminals for each voltage output source. We'll be discussing later what each one is used for. This one also provides an extra voltage output that provides 5 volts at a fixed maximum current of 3 amps. On a power supply, there are typically two knobs for each output. One of the knobs helps to regulate the maximum amount of current that the output can draw. The other knob helps to adjust the voltage. Right now, if you rotate the voltage knob, the voltage won't increase. This is because the current supply is set to 0. To increase the voltage, we will need to allow for some current draw. I'll be setting it to the maximum current draw just to demonstrate. Note that if the current draw of your circuit exceeds the maximum in the power supply, the supply will shut off. This helps to effectively serve as a safety measure. Now that it's set to maximum current draw, if I rotate the voltage knob, the voltage output should increase. Typically, the maximum that you can set it to is 30 volts. Each colored terminal corresponds to a specific output. The red terminal is for the higher or positive voltage output, the black terminal is for the lower or negative voltage, and the green terminal is for the ground terminal, which is always set to 0 volts. There are a variety of different cables and wires you can use to connect to the terminals. Typically, power supplies use banana cables like this. There are also different colored banana cables if you need to keep your setup organized. There are also a variety of different cable outputs. This one has a hook pin which can be used to connect wires to. Now, one thing to consider when using the power supply is that the voltage output is a differential output. This means that a 9-volt output could correspond to -4 volts on the negative terminal and 5 volts on the positive terminal. To make it so that the positive terminal outputs a positive voltage and the negative terminal outputs 0 volts, you'll need a wire that connects to the positive terminal, one that connects to the negative terminal, and one that will connect the negative terminal to ground or 0 volts. You can do this in a variety of ways. Because the end of the cable is also a connector, what you can do is connect a cable to the ground terminal, and then you can connect the two cables like so. This will help to connect the negative terminal to ground. You can also use the end of the cable to attach another cable with a hook pin connector, which can be used to connect wires to. You can now connect the black cable and red cable to your circuit. I set the voltage output to 3 volts. By connecting the red cable to the anode of the LED and the black cable to the cathode of the LED, I can turn it on. Another way to connect the negative terminal to ground is with the wire. If you unscrew the terminals, you can expose holes in the back of the terminals where you can put a wire through to connect them together. Get a wire and put one of the ends through one of the terminal's holes. Then rescrew the terminal to keep the wire tightly held in place. Get the other end of the wire and do the same thing with the other terminal. The negative terminal should now be connected to the ground terminal. Sometimes you may want to make a negative voltage. Keep in mind again that the voltage output display is a differential. Therefore, if the output is set to 9 volts, you can make the power supply output -9 volts on the black negative terminal and 0 volts on the red positive terminal. To do this, simply connect the positive terminal to ground. Now connect cables to the positive terminal and to the negative terminal. The negative terminal should now output a negative voltage. Sometimes you may want to create a positive voltage, a negative voltage, and 0 volts. You'll need both outputs to do this. To start, you will need one of the outputs to generate the positive voltage, so connect the ground terminal to the negative terminal. You will need the other output to generate a negative voltage, so connect the ground terminal to the positive terminal. Then connect both ground terminals together. Now connect a cable to the positive terminal on the output where the negative and ground terminals are connected, then a cable to the negative terminal where the positive and ground terminals are connected, and a cable to one of the ground terminals. The positive terminal supplies the positive voltage, the negative terminal supplies the negative voltage provided on this display, and the ground terminal should output 0 volts. There are some instances where you will need more voltage or more current than one of the outputs can provide. There's typically an option on the power supply that can allow you to connect both outputs in series or in parallel. Putting both outputs in series allows you to provide double the maximum voltage that could be provided with only one output, and putting them in parallel allows you to double the maximum current that could be provided with only one output. To enable the series configuration, simply press one of the buttons down. To enable the parallel configuration, press both of the buttons down. To make them both independent back again, simply press both the buttons back up.